You were born under the endless Mongolian sky, where the grass stretched like an ocean and the wind never rested. You had no mother's lullaby, no father's hand to guide you. They were gone before you could even speak. You don't remember their faces, only the warmth of your grandmother's hands. She raised you in a small felt gur, with the smell of horse dung fires and boiled milk. Her voice cracked when she sang, but it was the only comfort that you knew. She wasn't killed by an arrow or a blade, she was taken by something stronger. Time. At just 5 years old, you sat beside her still body, the fire gone out, the night too quiet. That was the first time that you learned what true silence felt like. The steppe doesn't weep for the weak, so you buried her with your trembling hands in frozen earth. And then, you were alone. But Mongol life never waits. By the age of 7, the elders dragged you into training. If he can walk, he can ride. If he can ride, he can kill. That was their law. Horses became your cradle, bows became your toys, and scars your lessons. They tied you to a wild colt. If you stayed on, you lived. If you fell, you learned. Your tiny fingers bled from drawing a bow too big for your arms. And if you cried, the older boys laughed and whipped your horse till it bolted. Meals were harsh. Raw meat when there was no fire, horse blood when there was no water. You gagged the first time, swallowed the second, and by the third you really didn't think about it anymore. You were barely 10 when war came too soon. A raid. They shoved a sword into your hand, and the blade shook heavier than your arms could hold. The horn blasted, echoing through your bones. Your knees trembled, stomach churned. Running wasn't an option. Behind you were screams. In front of you, the enemy. You forced yourself forward, step after shaky step, swept away by the tide of hooves and men. The world was chaos. Metal crashing, dust choking, blood splattering. Then he came, an enemy soldier, twice your size. His shadow swallowed you whole. He raised his blade. The sun glinted off the steel, blinding you for a second. Your legs locked. Your mouth went dry. The blade began to fall. Instinct screamed louder than fear. You swung. Steel tore through flesh. His eyes went wide, then empty. The head slipped from his shoulders and rolled in the dirt, staring at you even after death. The world stopped. No sound, no motion. That night, it was a celebration. Men sang, drums pounded, and they lifted you onto their shoulders. Not as a boy, but as a warrior. The songs carried your name under the eternal blue sky. That night, you weren't a child anymore. You were a Mongol. From that night, training became worse. The whips cracked harder, the runs grew longer, the arrows sharper. You embraced it, but not just out of duty. Something else burned inside you. It started with a memory, one you never spoke of. That day, crouched behind the rocks, you had watched. Not just the raid, not just slaughter. You saw your parents fall, and it wasn't a chance. It wasn't war, it was man. A captain. His name carved itself into your mind the moment you heard it whispered by the dying Morea. You saw him laugh as he cut their heads. And worse, you saw your parents smile through the blood. Smiling only because you were alive. That smile never left you. From then, training wasn't just survival. It was revenge. Every blister, every scar, every broken bone whispered the same promise. One day, you will kill Morea. Years passed. You grew harder, sharper, until the day came when you could pick your own squad. You already knew who. Killer. Not just a name, but a reputation. You saw him gut a spy with his bare hands, his silence scarier than screams. Marco, huge, towering like a bear, his fists crushing skulls, his laugh shaking the camp. Roni, Mia's brother. Not the best fighter, but loyal to the bone. And Mia. Her eyes carried the same emptiness as yours, her parents killed by the same man. During training, you found comfort in her silence, and with her, revenge wasn't lonely anymore. This wasn't just a squad, this was family. Then came your first raid. 4 squads rode out, yours, the youngest, riding last, like a shadow no one trusted yet. Still, your chest burned with pride as you shouted the Mongol cry. Kurtengren Tulu for the eternal blue sky. Hooves drummed like thunder across the steep. The first squad vanishes in an instant. One heartbeat they're there, torches swinging. The next, they're gone, swallowed by the earth itself. You yank your reins, your horse screams, nostrils flaring. Then the sound reaches you, the tearing, bone-splitting sound of men and beasts impaled. The second squad has no chance. Riding too close, their momentum carries them forward. You watch in horror as they slam into the pit, piling onto the bodies of their brothers. Wood shatters, skulls split, the air fills with shrieks. The third squad tries to turn. Too late. Horses skid, men topple, and one by one, they tumble into the same jagged maw. You're the fourth. You're watching it all. Your voice rips free at last. Retreat! But the steep doesn't hear. By the time you scream, 3 squads are already gone. And Roni never climbed back. You saw his face for just a blink, pale in the firelight, before the spikes drank him whole. Mia's scream carried across the night, and nothing ever sounded like home again. Back in camp, there was no celebration, only silence. Mia sat beside you, her eyes hollow. That night, under the stars, you swore, no matter how long it took, no matter how much blood was spilled, you would kill Morea. For your parents, for Mia's parents, for Roni. From then on, you trained harder, stronger, faster. You weren't a boy anymore. You were steel shaped by loss. News slipped through whispers, carried by spies like poisoned arrows. Morea was near. For the first time in years, you let yourself smile. Not out of joy, but hunger. Dawn broke, and the earth itself trembled under the army's hooves. No ambushes this time. Scouts swept the land clean. No pits, no spikes, no traps. You wanted him to see you coming. The assault began under a merciless sun. Steel clashed, men screamed, and dust turned the air into smoke. Your squad cut through the enemy like wheat before the scythe, but your eyes weren't on them. They searched, desperate for one face. And then, there he was. Morea. Older, slower, but still standing tall. Scars cut across his face like maps of old sins. And that smirk, the same one he wore the day your childhood burned. For a moment, the noise of battle died. You could hear only your heartbeat, thundering louder than any hoof. He raised his hand, not in fight, but in surrender. Words spilled from his cracked lips. Riches, horses, land, anything, everything. But mercy? Mercy died the night he killed your family. You didn't answer. Instead, you called Mia forward. Both of you stepped into the circle of silence carved by fate. 2 blades rose. Time froze. And when they fell, Morea's head rolled across the dirt, staining the same earth where your life had shattered. Victory was yours. The battlefield lay silent, broken bodies scattered like discarded dolls. For the first time in years, the weight on your chest lifted. You had done it. The air felt lighter, the sky brighter. For a heartbeat, you believed fate had finally given you peace. But fate is a cruel bastard. A ragged cough broke the silence. You turned. One soldier still moved. Not just a soldier, Morea's son. His eyes locked on yours, burning with the same fire you once carried. He was broken, bleeding, barely standing, but hate kept him alive. Slowly he raised his bow. The string groaned and time slowed. You shouted, you moved, but too late. The arrow cut through the air faster than breath. Blood sprayed. Not yours. Mia stood in front of you, her body jerking with the impact. Her gasp tore into you louder than any scream you'd ever heard. She staggered, crimson pouring from her chest, and collapsed into your arms. You roared. A single strike ended Morea's son. His skull split before he hit the dirt. But victory meant nothing. Mia's blood coated your hands, warm, then cold. The girl who shared your pain, your vengeance, your soul, was gone. The eternal blue sky watched, indifferent as you held her, and you realized the cruelest truth of all. You had won the war, only to lose the only reason you fought it. The steep was quiet again. The wind howled, the fire cracked. You sat alone beside your horse, staring at Mia's empty place. The mission was complete. Revenge was done. But you weren't free. You were hollow. The world would forget your name, but not your shadow. The shadow of a Mongol warrior.